Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video review. This time I'm going to be reviewing the DC Comics Multiverse Steppenwolf Collect and Connect figure from the Justice League Wave. So I'm very excited to see that Steppenwolf was made the Collect and Connect of this Justice League Wave. It was certainly what I was hoping for. Similarly, I was hoping for Doomsday as the Build-A-Figure of the Batman v Superman Wave, and I was very disappointed. I was very happy to see Ares was the Build-A-Figure of the Wonder Woman Wave. However, I was disappointed that that turned out to be a concept figure, or a concept art figure. Now we finally have the correct character, as well as, I believe, correct design for this wave when it comes to the villain of the DCEU movie, which is quite nice. So I'm a big villains fan in general, and I do prefer movie characters over comic ones. So that's why this is a pretty perfect Collect to Connect for me personally. Overall, let's just get right into it. Just talking about the face sculpt, I do like the face sculpt. The sculpt itself I do like a lot. I think that it looks quite nice. He looks rather stern. You know, there's not like a whole lot of similarities to the actor that they've cast, and there's no like clear shot of his face in the trailer or anything like that, so I can't say with 100% accuracy how good it looks. However, I do think that it looks quite nice just looking at it here. My only issue with it is how it's painted. I think the idea of how it's painted is cool, where you've got like white and then they've kind of washed in gray to highlight some of the sections, but it does give his face a stone type of look. It doesn't look very organic, which looks odd to me. It looks like a toy as far as the face is concerned rather than the actual character. So who knows, maybe in the movie his face looks exactly like that, but I'm really doubting that. So I'm not a big fan of the way that the face is painted, but I'll reserve complete judgment until I see the actual movie, or at least until I see a good photo of him. As far as his like little helmet thing is concerned, he's got these big horns, which do look nice. I do like the texturing in them. They've got like lines going throughout it, kind of coming down to his eyebrows, which I think looks very nice. The paint is odd. He's got this like metallic blue, but it's like on the corners here. He's got a little bit at the top of his head, and then the top of the horns are red. I think that's a little odd mixture of colors. I think that it does look a little strange, and I'm not sure how much blue he actually has in the movie, because from the trailers, I don't really see a bunch, and like the mystery mini that was released of him doesn't have any blue on it, so I'm not 100% sure how accurate this blue is. However, I like the blue. I think that it looks cool because it's not just a normal blue. They've went with a pretty particular metallic, very shiny blue, which I think is quite nice. It's a nice contrast to the black and the silver aspects of his costume, so I do like it. I think that maybe they went a little heavy-handed with it, though. I think that he's got a lot of blue on him, so I wish that they would tone it down a bit, you know, maybe just use it to highlight things rather than to completely paint things, because I mean there's some parts on him like his shoulders and his feet or his shin areas that are really like completely blue, and there's not much black in them. I would like them to highlight a little bit more than just physically, you know, paint. So but I do still like the shade that they've went with. The red looks pretty nice down here. But again, he looks a little colorful because he's got so much blue on him, and then he's got these speckles of red, which, you know, again, is pretty colorful. But overall, I do like it. He's got a ton of detail and texture throughout his entire body. There isn't a single spot on him other than his hands that don't have a lot of good detail. And his hands, you know, have a fine level of detail that's just, his hands look a little cartoonish compared to the rest of him, just because there's so much going on everywhere else, even in the texture of his face, that his hands are just kind of plain. So, you know, since they did the face texturing the way that they did, I wish that they'd at least extend it to the hands, too. That would make a lot more sense, but instead they're very plain. So the hands do kind of pop in a bad way. However, that's a relatively small complaint. And the hands themselves are pretty big. Now, he's kind of got monstrous proportions, so I don't think that looks horrible or anything, but it is certainly noticeable, and I would have preferred the hands to be in a little bit better of a scale to the rest of the body of this figure in general, in my opinion. But overall, the coloring is excellent. As far as, or sorry, the sculpting is excellent. As far as the his weapon is concerned, he does come with a full axe. This axe has tremendous detail on it. I absolutely love it. See if we can get a good look at it. Tremendous detail there throughout the entire thing, as you can see, and it has like an organic quality to it. It almost looks like it's made out of bone, like bone and metal. It's kind of like organic and mechanical mixed. I think that looks wonderful. I hope we get like a good shot of that in the movie, because there's so much going on there and it just looks excellent. I think that it fits the figure very nicely. It does have a bit of a bend to it. It's a softer plastic, so it does bend a bit. You can get him to hold it with two hands. However, you can't do much posing with him with it in two hands. You kind of have to have him hold it in two hands, just kind of straight. You can't really angle it very much, just due to the restrictions of the articulation, considering he only has a single hinge elbows and he has no hinge at the wrist. So there's a bit of a limitation there as far as how you can pose him. Overall, his articulation is pretty standard for Mattel. However, I will say that it feels restrictive. Like, I feel like I got better poses out of the Ares figure as compared to him, although they have, you know, a lot of the same articulation. One part where he really does succeed in articulation is the head sculpt. The head sculpt is a ball joint that's on a pin to another ball joint in his neck, so he can really look down completely. He can look up very far, side to side, and get that head tilt going. So lots that you can do here. The head is articulated much better than I expected. He's got ball hinge shoulders, which work quite nicely. A bicep swivel, which, you know, can be a little hindered by this because this is a rubber, but it's kind of a harder rubber, so it does restrict it slightly. Then he has hinge swiveling, or he has hinge elbows and a swivel that is on the forearm of the arm. So you know, like, I don't even know what this is for. I wish that it was just you know, it should have just been a hinge, because there's no reason for that little swivel there. Then he has swivel wrists. He's got an ab crunch which doesn't go forward at all. It just straightens out. There's no forward movement at all. It does go back though, which is nice. However, I think that for tall figures, it's more important for them to move forward rather than it is for them to move back. On shorter figures, it's better for them to move back than it is to move forward, so that you can, like, you know, display them with other figures appropriately. However, this one, it's unfortunate that it doesn't move forward at all. He has swivel at the thigh, or at the waist, sorry. Then he's got your standard, you know, Mattel jointed hips, which can go out about this far. It's quite restricted due to the rubber skirt piece. It is rubber, of course, but it is a very thick rubber, so it does have some resistance to it. There's a swivel at the thigh. Also, his legs go out about this far, and then they start to move back in. So not a ton of range there when it comes to the thigh, which is unfortunate. But it does have a swivel. You've got a single hinge knee, which can go full 90 degrees, and then you'd have hinge ankles. The ankles do feel pretty stiff though. So his articulation is pretty standard for Mattel. Wish that it had a bit better range, especially in the torso and at the thighs. However, he has enough articulation where you can, you know, you can pose him. It's mainly going to be doing like stances, like cool stances like this, where he's got his legs a little bit spread. You got the axe fully showcased and everything, looking to the side a bit. You know, you can get a nice stance like that. There's not a ton of poses that you can put him in though, fighting the Justice League, that look very natural, especially since he can't crunch forward. But overall, I think that he is quite nice as far as his articulation is good, his paint is good, and then his sculpt is excellent. So that's basically how I would rank him, giving you a comparison as far as how big he is. And here's a size comparison with Steppenwolf with the rest of the Justice League, all the figures in his wave that you do need to buy to complete him. And as you can see, he towers over all of them. He's extremely tall. This is quite excellent. The Ares Build-A-Figure was quite nice in the Wonder Woman wave because he was rather tall. However, you only needed to buy 4 figures to complete him. Now with this one, you had to buy 6, so you got to buy a couple extra. And they've really given you a proportionate collect to connect compared to the number of figures that you need to buy when you compare the last 2 DCEU waves. So that is quite excellent. Do love how tall this figure is. He's much taller than I thought he was going to be. Like, I saw pictures and he looked really tall, but in person, it turned out to be even taller than I was expecting. You know, most figures come up to about his abdomen section. So as you can see, you have like a full, the majority of the torso, and then the entire head section, as well as the horns on top of everybody else just about. So he is quite tall. I think all of these figures are pretty proportionate with each other. I mean, it looks like, you know, Aquaman is slightly taller than a lot of these figures, and in real life I believe that's the case. And Ezra Miller's Flash is a bit shorter, which I think is accurate as well. So I think that these are all really nicely scaled as far as height's concerned. So really do like these. I assume that this Build-A-Figure, or this Collect to Connect figure, is in scale with the rest of these. We have seen him in the movie, but there's not like a clear shot where he's standing next to one of these characters. So I'm not 100% sure if this is accurate, but I do assume that it is accurate. It would be a little odd if they made him this big and he wasn't actually this big in the movie. But yeah, so I do assume this is accurate, and this is what I would assume is a really nice scale with the rest of the Justice League. So overall, I do very much like this DC Comics Multiverse Collect and Connect Steppenwolf figure. I'm excited for this character in the movie. I do feel like he's a bit of a tease, like, you know, we're trying to get to Darkseid, and we've got to go through this guy, which, you know, in the comics, Steppenwolf isn't really big in my opinion, so, you know, I think that it's a little bit of a shame that we had to kind of go through him before we get to the real meat of the villain, but I still am excited for him. I think he's pretty cool looking. I will say that I absolutely liked his look in the deleted scene of Batman v Superman much more than this. I think that this more humanoid look maybe will fit him from a character standpoint, and it'll allow the actor playing him, who I can't remember his name, he's been in things like Game of Thrones and stuff, but you know, it'll give him more to do with this guy, because he'll be doing the motion capture for him. With the other one, he's a little more monsterish, and that was a big complaint when it came to Doomsday and everything like that, so I could see why they went this direction, but personally I did prefer the other version. I think the other version just looked a lot cooler, but hopefully this look of Steppenwolf will better serve the story, even though it's not as cool in my opinion. So there you go, that's my thoughts on this DC Comics Multiverse DCEU Steppenwolf Collect and Connect figure from the Justice League series. Let me know what you guys think of this figure, and thanks so much for watching.